If you think your mother-in-law is bad, mine invited an unaliver to my wedding. This story is actually insane and a reminder to always trust your gut on things. My husband was never really close with his mom. He was raised by his dad and his stepmom, so before we got engaged, I'd actually only met her like 2 or 3 times. Every time I met her, she had been really nice and really fun. Definitely not somebody that has the best decision-making skills, but I never had an issue with her. But then we started planning the wedding and a different side of her came out, one that I could have never expected. Keep in mind, I was not close to this woman. Before I got engaged, never spoke to her on the phone. Suddenly, she's calling me every day, sometimes twice a day, to complain about things about the wedding. She hates everything. She hates my dress, she hates the venue, she hates the flowers, she hates the day that it's on, and she wants me to change all of it. And it is on one of these many, many phone calls when she asks if she can invite somebody to our wedding. So my husband has a stepbrother. They have never gotten along. I've actually only met him once and I got very bad vibes from him. They are basically no contact. He's just always getting into trouble, doing bad things, really aggressive every time he's at a family event. Just not a very good person, if you know what I'm saying. I was like, yeah, girl, that is not happening. I'm sorry, just because your family does not mean you get an auto invite to a wedding. We don't talk to this man. He gives us both bad vibes. He's not going to be there. But she throws an absolute fit about this. She's like, everyone in the family is going to be wondering why he's not there. This is horrible. You have to invite him. And at this point, my husband and I are just so exhausted with everything that she's been hounding us about. So we give in, which was a mistake in hindsight. We should have really stood our ground. But we're like, you know what? He can come. Just make sure that he is seen but not heard. And I think that's the end of it until she calls me a week later and doesn't ask, but tells me that my husband's stepbrother is going to be staying with us in our home during the wedding. I was like, excuse me? No, he is not. He is not going to be doing that. And she starts giving me this sob story. She's like, there's no more room in our hotel room. And he can't afford his own hotel room. And he has nowhere to stay and nowhere to go. And he doesn't know what he's going to do. And I was like, well, he doesn't have to come then. I didn't want him there anyway. My husband didn't want him there anyway. Like, stay home. And I saw the look in my sweet, empathetic husband's eyes. He was about to give in. He was about to say yes. So I was like, sorry, we're breaking up. I got to call you back. Hung up. I looked right at my husband. I said, listen, babe, there's absolutely no universe where that man is going to be staying in our home. Now, my husband works, so there are times in the day where I'm home alone, and I did not want to be home alone with this man. I didn't feel safe. And my husband was like, okay, you're being like a little dramatic. Yeah, he's not a good guy. We don't like him, but he's not dangerous. I was like, I'm telling you right now, something in my gut does not feel right about this. I do not want to be alone with this man. Thankfully, my husband has my back. He's like, okay, well, I'll tell her no. So we call back his mom. We tell her that he can't stay with us. And she cries, she screams, she tries to persuade us. But my husband put his foot down and he did not stay with us. Thank God. The day of the wedding comes. It's great, lovely day. And the weirdest thing is that my husband's mom is trying to put his stepbrother in all of our family photos, like positioning him right in the middle or right next to my sisters. And it's just weird because, again, he is not close with my husband. They do not get along. They do not talk. So, I mean, putting him in 1 or 2 photos, okay, but every single photo, like, sorry that we do want photos without him. That's not rude. We did position him on the edge for some of them so we could just, crop him out. Whoops. But the whole time, my mother-in-law was making these backhanded comments about how we were in the wrong for not letting his stepbrother stay with us. I was like, he's a stranger. She was like, you could have just let him crash on your couch. I was like, no, I don't want a stranger in my home. And over the years, she has continued to bring up the fact that we didn't let him stay with us. She was like, it was so inconvenient. We all had to cram in a hotel room. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. It's just not my problem. But recently, my husband and I were watching the news, and that's when we see a mugshot pop up of his stepbrother. I turned the volume up so loud. I was like, okay, what is going on? It turns out that he had lost his temper and unalived his girlfriend. If I wouldn't have trusted my gut, I would have been home alone with that man. If you feel in your gut that something's wrong, a situation or a person, trust it. Don't let somebody pressuring you make you just fold and give in, because you can put yourself in really bad, dangerous situations. Stay safe and trust your instincts.
When my best friend was dying of cancer, I told her to come back and haunt me as a bunny, and I wasn't joking about that. That's something I seriously meant. We would always sit outside and watch the crazy little things run around and chase each other and jump over each other. They looked like kids playing freeze tag or kids that were late for outdoor recess or something. So one day I looked at her and I said, when you die, can you please come back and visit me as a bunny? And she immediately agreed. She said, job accepted. And now she's gone, but the bunnies are everywhere. In parking lots, on front lawns. Every time the world is pretty quiet, I see them. And I always stop and slow down a little bit to say hi to my best friend. Because what if it's her? What if she kept her promise? She believed the afterlife was soft, where cinnamon rolls would be healthy for you and you could wear your favorite outfit every day and nobody would question it, and how there was always time for one more adventure. I would always sit next to her in the hospital trying to think of the perfect thing to say, but the words always got caught in my throat and I ended up just holding her hand because that's the only thing I knew how to do. I didn't know how to tell her that I was scared to live alone in a world that lets girls like her die, you know? And now I stay up at night revisiting the last conversations we had, wondering if I should have said something more profound or more poetic. But maybe love doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be remembered. And that's what I keep telling myself. So I keep telling her story because if I don't, then who will? Who will know that there was a girl named Ava who laughed at bunnies, who made peace with the endings and made us believe in the same thing? And now every time I see a bunny in a place it doesn't really belong, I just stop and I say hi to my best friend because I know it's her looking back at me.
Now that I no longer work at my old job, I want to do a story time on a very famous rapper who tried to ruin my career and ruin my life. I worked at a department store, men's designer specifically, and I was commission based. I was working one day when a man approached me asking for help picking out a jacket for his music video. He was very nice. We ended up picking him a green Bottega jacket, most beautiful jacket I've ever seen. It was about $6,000. He bought it. He left. My coworker came up to me and was like, "Do you know who that is?" I said, "No." They showed me his Instagram and I ended up following him. He had a lot of followers. I'm like, this is going to be cool. He's shooting a music video on this. I would love to see that. It's great. So he ends up shooting the video. The jacket looked amazing. The video was cool, good song, good energy. Yeah, awesome. Well, not awesome. A week later, I see him walk in with his girlfriend, baby mama now. She was starring in a very big, well-known Disney movie at the time, so she was very popular at this time. Well, they wanted to return the jacket. I had to tell them, no, you cannot do that. It was not fun. We ended up going back and forth over this, and I had to tell him 3 reasons I could not return this jacket. The first reason was it was smelling like cologne, very strong cologne scent. The second reason, it smelled a lot like smoke, and neither of these reasons were good enough for either of them. They were going back and forth. I told him that it's worn. The third reason, it was worn. He looked at me and he said, "You cannot prove that." And I said, "Actually, I can." And I pulled out my phone, pulled out the video, and I said, "This you?" He was speechless. He was speechless, and his girlfriend did not like that. She said, "This is extremely unprofessional. This is something that you do to all of your clients." Like, just very, very livid. And I explained to her, you guys are public figures, very well known. He told me he was shooting a music video. This is a public video posted on YouTube. Yes, I saw it. Yes, I pulled it up because I am commission based. I know it was worn. I cannot take back this jacket. It is a $6,000 jacket. It is against our return policy. I am not able to accept this. I could get in trouble. I'm very sorry. Explained it to her many times, explained it to him. It was just getting very heated. It created a scene. 3 of my coworkers started coming, trying to defend me. It was not going down. It was getting worse and worse. My manager stepped in, helping me, and I actually said, "I'm going to remove myself." I did not feel comfortable anymore. It was not heading into any direction that I wanted to be a part of. So my assistant manager stood there, and I told him, "I'm going to remove myself. If my assistant manager would like to return this, he is absolutely welcome to. I personally cannot take back this return because I can get in trouble. It is a very expensive jacket. It's worn. It smells worn. I can't. I am so sorry, but this is policy." They ended up leaving. My manager said no, he had my back. They went to different departments, tried to return it. It was denied all over the store. They ended up winning. It sucks, but they went to a different location and returned it. It's fine. I expected it to be returned, just not by me. I didn't care because I did not want to get in trouble. I did not want to take the heat for that. It's a big no-no to return designer stuff. I guess that wasn't enough for him because he took to his social media to post the receipt of this jacket, and with the receipt he wrote a very crazy message. With this receipt, it showed my first name, the first initial of my last name, where I worked, the address of where I worked in the department. And in that photo, he said my first name, all of that information, and said I was racist, and I called him the N-word with a hard R. I did not do this. I had 3 coworkers there, 2 of which were black, my assistant manager, and if I had done this, I would have been immediately fired. I worked a year after that. The store manager ended up apologizing to me for what he put me through. It created a month of harassment. 1 month of his fan base, to his millions of followers, going to social media, to Yelp, to Instagram, to TikTok, calling me racist. They started showing up at the store in groups looking for me. It was very scary. They started calling the phones, and if I answered, I was being cussed at, yelled at, threatened. I had to be walked to my car when I left because like the groups would be kicked out and they'd still be waiting. They found my social media, and it did not die down for a month, and maybe over a month. It was very damaging, and I thought it was insane behavior because you are abusing your platform to try and ruin somebody's life who is just doing their job. I thought that was the craziest, most erratic thing in the entire world. It turns out that they ended up doing this to somebody else. The girlfriend's sister and him, the rapper, ended up going to a nail salon and doing something very similar and calling this lady racist, but she ended up telling her side of the story, and they were called out for it very publicly. I can't get over this because they came in with an AP watch, Disney money, fighting me, wanting to return a jacket. I am just doing my job. I cannot take this jacket back. Like, it's my job, and you're trying to ruin my life and say very damaging, real accusations for what? Over a jacket you ended up winning. Like, why are you trying to ruin my life, my career? Like, that's sick behavior. That is crazy, and I think it's crazy that he has such a big platform to this day that he's able to do that, and that they will probably do this again.
Here's the story of how my freshman year roommate bullied me to the point that I almost transferred out of my school. I really heavily debated telling the story, but at the same time, it's my story to tell, and she silenced me literally the entire time that I knew her. So I went to a college 3.5 hours away from my house, and when I first went there, I only knew a couple older people, and they weren't living in the freshman dorm, so I had to go random. I was given a random dorm. I got really lucky. My dorm was huge, and I was also given a random roommate. That roommate ended up dropping out within 5 days of us moving in. So now I am alone in a huge room, and my RA is starting to DM me and ask me, okay, so there's a lot of girls on your floor right now that aren't getting along with their roommates. Would you be willing to room with one of them? And I was like, no, I want the room to myself. At this point, it's about 2 to 3 weeks into college, and I had already made a friend group. None of these girls lived in the same quad that I was in. They lived on a different part of campus. One of which, she lived in a single that was in a suite. And now this is the roommate that this story's about. We're gonna call her Anna. Every single day, my RA is DMing me saying, okay, I'm looking for a new replacement for your roommate. Your room needs to be filled. It cannot be a single. And Anna is telling me and all my friends that we had already made that she hates her suite mates. They're being really rude to her. She's having a hard time because her suite was literally the size of a closet. All of us are getting along great. Anna seems to really want to leave this room, so I asked my RA if she can move into my room. By mid-September, Anna is officially living with me. We had a bunch of our guy friends help move her into my quad, into my room, and it seemed awesome. When she moved into my room, we were having a great time. I finally had someone to talk to almost 24/7. We had very similar class schedules. We were majoring in the same thing, so it seemed like we were really getting along great. And our friends that we all made, they would come to our room all the time. A lot of our friends were on sports teams, and we had the room that was really close to the staircase to lead to the athletic center, so everyone would stop by. It was so much fun. We even got a hamster together, and that hamster lived for almost 4 years. I'm the kind of friend where if I have a friendship with someone, we can make fun of each other here and there, but it's not to the point that it becomes insult humor. Because I don't find insult humor funny. I find it extremely hurtful when it continues over and over again. So when Anna moved into my room, she automatically started pointing out the fact that like all of her items were pretty dark colored, navy blue, dark green, black, and my stuff was all pink and purple because I love pink and purple. She made it a point to tell me that like my stuff was too girly and that she has the cooler stuff because it's darker and more mysterious. That was the first moment where I was like, why does it matter? Why are you making a point to make fun of my things with the guys around? She would specifically really make fun of me when there was boys around. At first I thought that this was a joke, so I was like, oh, I don't know, I just bought it at Marshall's, whatever. Now fast forward to October, and these snide remarks start becoming so consistent that I start to pick up on the fact that she's just being extremely mean to me. Anna had a long-term boyfriend that she had from back home. I was single and I was just having the college experience. So whenever I would go out, and Anna prided herself on the fact that she hated going out. So I would go out with the other girls in our friend group and I would have a great time. I was really enjoying the fact that I was able to go party with them. I really liked, having the college experience. And Anna would make fun of me for that. She would wake up the next morning after I would go out and she'd be like, all right, what nonsense did you cause last night? Or she would love to say like, oh, what ugly boy gave you interest or attention last night? And I would stand up to her and then she would just come back with something so nasty. Like one time she told me that my hair looked terrible in a ponytail and I actually didn't wear my hair in a ponytail for way after this friendship ended. But I told her, listen, like that's not funny. I actually really worked hard on this hairstyle. And she goes, yeah, well, that's why your mom doesn't love you. Like, what? The most hurtful thing that this girl did was comment on the fact that her relationship with her mother was so much better than mine with my mother. Because at this point, me and my mom were just really not seeing eye to eye. I really didn't call her often. We just had a little bit of distance. This was something extremely personal that I did share with Anna because she lived with me and she saw me, upset about the situation. We had a lot of heart-to-heart moments where I would tell her something personal and then she would go around and turn it around against me. So I shared with her that I was having a hard time with my mom, and she specifically went out of her way in front of the entire friend group when they were over in my room to point out that her mom was coming into town and they were going to have a wine night. My parents did not let me drink underage. In front of everyone, she goes, yeah, well, my mom loves me. We're having a wine night. Your mom hates you and she doesn't let you do anything. This was so insanely hurtful to me. And I know that in this situation, everyone else around was just like, what? Standing up to this girl just made this situation so much worse. And every time that I voiced my opinion on what she was saying, she would just come back with something so much nastier. Anytime I would go out or I had like a low cut top, it was always, oh my God, your boobs are so small. You're so hideous. No one's ever gonna love you because you have no boobs. And she would put me down almost every single time that I wanted to go out. End of October was parents' weekend. And I decided to invite my parents and my little brother. I said, listen, there's supposed to be a football game. There's supposed to be a lot of fun. All of my friends are inviting their parents. And I specifically made it a point to tell Anna, we need to get all the alcohol out of the room. My parents are very against it. They will be really upset if they see it in the room. I drilled this into this girl's head. I think for the entire week leading up to parents' weekend, I was telling her every single day, make sure we're limiting it. Make sure we're getting it out. And she would just come back and be like, oh my God, you're so annoying. You've already said this 30 times. Finally, it's the day before parents' weekend. And Anna's mom and dad, I believe, came into town. I met them both. They were so sweet. So I don't know how they raised this absolute monster, but I deep cleaned the room. Anna cleaned a little bit. I was usually the one that was doing most of the cleaning. I made sure that all the visible alcohol that I could find was out of the room and gone. Anna loved these giant pink Smirnoff screwdrivers, and she had a mini fridge that she contributed to the room, and it was on my side of the room. I didn't use it often, but it was still there, and it was my mistake for not checking it, because when my parents showed up, they started going through my room. They think that it's, a really nice setup. This was their first time seeing my room since they moved me in before the previous roommate dropped out. So the room was completely different than the last time that they saw it. And one of the first things my dad does is open up the mini fridge, and what does he find? Anna's screwdriver right in the middle. When I saw that, I just had a feeling that there was malicious intent behind her leaving that bottle in there, because I made it so unbelievably clear that we needed to take all of it out. And it was still in there. And I know for a fact she was the one that cleaned out the fridge because it was technically her fridge. And my parents lost their minds. I explained to them that it wasn't mine. They were extremely upset with me, and parents' weekend was completely destroyed. My mom was really upset with me to the point that she almost barely spoke to me. And finally, after a couple of hours of us just being really tense and just awkward around each other, I told them to go home. So after they left, we got into a really big argument. It was a very nasty end of the situation. I confronted Anna and I told her, listen, why was this in there? I told you so many times to get it out. And yes, I could have checked, but it completely slipped my mind. I was focusing on the rest of the room. She blew it back in my face and said, well, it's your fault for not checking it since you were so obsessed with all of it being out of the room. And then she made fun of my parents and I for getting into an argument and told me how great of a time she's having with her mom and how I will never have that because my parents don't love me. And then this bullying just escalated into a daily offense. I had a communal shower in my hall where I lived, and I would specifically go into that shower and spend over 2 hours in it when I knew that Anna was in our room. I was trying to avoid her, and then she would spin it on me and tell all the guys that we were friends with that I stink so bad that I have to take such long showers. And everyone would make fun of me for taking these long showers, which it only takes me about 10 minutes to really shower. I was sitting in there for over 2 hours, sometimes upwards of 3, just to avoid her. So Thanksgiving break is coming up. At this point, we're at the end of November, and I'm freaking out the weeks leading up to it because I don't want to go home. Like I said, me and my parents were in tense waters. We weren't really getting along, so I did not want to go home for Thanksgiving break, but my school mandates you to go home. So as I'm voicing my concerns to Anna and telling her that I'm really stressed out to go home, she would just laugh at me and say, well, you're just a terrible daughter, because who wouldn't want to see their family for Thanksgiving? And then she would tell me how excited she is for Thanksgiving, how her family's so perfect, how she hates college and how she hates the dorm food, and how she is so excited to get real food, and just telling me how awesome her life is and just how perfect it's going to be for Thanksgiving, like rubbing it in my face. We go home for Thanksgiving. I had a terrible time. I just wanted to go back to college almost the entire time. And when I came back, she was so angry to see me. She's like, oh my God, the break was so short. I'm really upset to see you. I don't want to look at you. Like, go away. Basically just like shooing me away. And I was just so excited to be back. So she like diminished my happiness almost. Leading up to Christmas break, we start hearing about COVID, because my freshman year, I was in college the fall 2019 going into spring 2020. That was my freshman year. Once again, Christmas break is coming up now, and I'm super upset because I don't want to go home. I was in this one psychology class with Anna, except we had different times, but the same professor, and I was doing absolutely terrible in this class. This professor was insanely harsh. So when she would ask me what I got on a test and we would compare our scores, she would call me stupid and that I'm going to fail out of college and not amount to anything. This girl was actually insane that I'm like telling the story. Honestly, the break was really nice because I actually got to spend some time at home. I worked a little bit, and as much as I didn't like spending time at home, I was away from Anna. We come back, and now speculations of COVID are really starting to get more and more concerning. I'm telling everyone, oh my gosh, I am so nervous for COVID. I really don't want this to happen. I don't want to get sent home. I hate going home. Once again, Anna's coming in saying that I'm a terrible person. And finally, it's the weekend before COVID sends us all home. I was dying to go out with the other girls in our friend group and some of the guys, and I was ready to go, and Anna literally did not let me leave the room. She made me stay in, and to this day, I regret not standing up to her. But I was scared of her, and I don't blame myself. Anna left before anyone else, and she literally just threw all of her things into a truck and left. No goodbye, no nothing. I had to text her to tell her, hey, listen, did you leave? She was like, yeah, I'm actually on my way home. And she turned around and finally came back to say goodbye. Like, she was just gonna up and leave and like not say anything. I never saw her again after that. I ended up cursing her out over Snapchat a couple of weeks later because she was being absolutely rude to me and I just had it. She sent me a text recently trying to like rekindle and like tell me how much she misses me. I didn't answer, and that's where the story ends.
Story time on the time I went out on a date with a 50-plus-year-old man. Bro, I used to be in Tallahassee just doing stuff. What a time. So at this time, me and my boyfriend at the time, which is my boyfriend now, we was going through it. We was beefing. We was not talking. And one thing about me, it never gave sit in the house and cry about a nigga. Sorry, boo. Not doing it. You outside, bitch. I'm outsider. Thank you. This one I was working as a server at Longhorn. All the hoes used to be in Longhorn. I'm talking about... Never mind. Anyway, it was always somebody in there, like, trying to take me on a date, trying to take me out. So it was nothing for me to go to work and get another nigga. No shade, boo. No disrespect. I'm just... You know. So this day, I go into work beefing. We was both single, by the way. Let me clear that up because it's not like we was beefing and... we were single. Okay, so I go to work, you know, flipping my tables, and these two police officers come in. One is like fair skinned and the other is dark skinned. They're both super tall, but I love dark skinned men. That's my thing. The area where they were sitting is like dimmed. It's like a dimmed table where they're sitting, and then he also has on his police hat, and all I can see is really his skin tone, and I can see in the face that he's like somewhat handsome, but I can't really see his face features too much. Also, the angle where I was serving their table was from their side profile, because I can't explain it, but yeah, I'm like taking their, you know, their order from their side profile because the way their booth was set up, right? The whole time I'm waiting on this table, I'm like, okay, this officer is kind of handsome. Like, I never dated a police officer before or like talked to one or nothing like that because I always felt like it was crazy. But I was willing to make an accommodation for this because he looked handsome. Right when they were about to get up, our prep guy had came from the back and went to his table and was talking to him. I said, oh, boom, I'm in there. Easy peasy. So my table leave. They was really sweet, by the way. They took me really good. They left, and I went to the back. I told the prep guy, I'm like, who that was? And he was like, oh, that's my homeboy. Da 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 da. I'm like, oh, he's kind of handsome. He was like, I'm gonna pass the message along. Thank you. That easy. So when y'all be sitting in the house crying about niggas, I will never get it. Like, it's literally that easy. He texted the guy and was like, oh, somebody is asking for your info. And the guy texted back and was like, it depends on who it is. And our prep guy was like, it was your server. And he was like, oh, absolutely. Give her my information. Thank you. He gave me his number. I texted him, was like, oh, this is Chanel, blah, blah. And we get to texting. The way that he texts is not illiterate, but you would think he was, like, young, like, around my age. In the face, I would assume that he was about, from what I could see, I would say like late 30s, mid 40s. I knew he was older than me. I was only about 25 at this time. So we're texting, we're like asking each other questions, like, the basics when you first start texting somebody. And he, I asked him, because I knew he was older. I texted him, I asked him, I'm like, how old are you? And he was like 53. I said, oh, this grandpa and them. This way past Unc. He asked me how old I am. I'm like 25. He's like, oh, I knew you were younger. Is this going to be an issue? Like, I'm like twice your age. Yeah, I was extremely like, ew, no, at first. But I was like, you know what? Like, you grown. What you scared of? Once he told me his age, I already knew this was not going far at all. Maybe a couple dates, go out to get some food, maybe a movie. That's it. That's all. I ain't got nothing else for you. So I respond. I'm basically like, no, it's cool. Well, whatever. But I'm texting Rodrigo like, bitch, this man 50. But he didn't talk like an older man, like a man that old. He did not text like a, he was real chill. He was real cool. He cracked jokes. Like, it was cool. After like 2 days, he was like, oh, he want to go out to eat. Like, let's meet up somewhere, go eat. I'm like, okay, cool. I get dressed or whatever. I didn't even do my makeup because it's like, who doing their makeup to go out with their granddad, So I get like, put on modest clothing. And he said he want to go to Ted Grill, Montana, or Ted Montana Grill, something like that. Never been there before, but I had driven past it a few times. Nothing ever in me said, oh, let's try there. It just didn't give to me, but he said that's where you want to go. So I was like, okay, cool, we can meet there. I get there before him, and I already got to wait for him for like 20 minutes. That already threw me off, but I'm like, he probably had to take his medicine and stuff. So I'm like, I'm giving him grace or whatever. He a little older. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give him some time. Boom. So then he texts me. He's like, oh, he's like 10 minutes out. I'm like, okay, cool. He says he's here. I said, I'm here. How were you here when I'm here? And he's like, oh, I don't see you. I'm like, I don't see you. Which one are you at? I said, I'm at the one in Tallahassee. He's like, oh, I'm at the one in Georgia. This Georgia state line was like 30 minutes from Tallahassee. Like, I'm like, why would you go to that one? And he was like, well, I thought that I'm already aggravated. Okay. So, okay, cool. He finally makes it there, right? Like I said, I waited for him to walk in. We walk in, and y'all, it looked like Elvis Presley threw up in there. They had checkered tablecloths, like red and white checkered tablecloths. I'm like, what the fuck? It was just like, the vibe just gave, they gave like had I said I want to try this place out and I walked in there, I probably would have walked right out. Like, everything about it just gave, but that was not, like, now I'm aggravated, because like, okay, we sit down, we get to looking at the menus or whatever, and I don't see nothing that's appealing. I had ate before I had got there, but I was just gonna give me something else to take it home, but nothing on the menu gave. Like, it was just, everything was like, it was just so I'm like, what are you gonna get? He was like, oh, I don't even need to look at the menu. I come here every time. I always get the same thing. So I'm like, okay. So he asked me, what am I gonna get? I said, I'm just gonna have a glass of wine. Like, I'm cool. So we sit at the table, we chilling, blah, blah, blah. We talking. And let me say also, when he first got out the car, we getting ready to walk into the restaurant. He don't have on his hat. He don't have on his police uniform. So I could see everything. He looked every bit of 50. So that was already like strike 2. That was strike 2. The tardiness was strike 1. How he looked without that uniform was strike 2. And then when I walked in, I seen it. Okay, now we strike 3. You know what I'm saying? At this point, I know, okay, you're not going to see me again. At this point, I'm just here. He was not as handsome as I thought he was, like, with that uniform on. I said, oh my God, what have I done? But it's too late. I'm already here, But his vibe is still cool. Like, his vibe's still cool or whatever. So we chit-chatting for a little bit, but I'm kind of, like, uncomfortable a little bit because it's like, oh my God, like, you really like 53, like you look 53, like I hope the old men don't come in my comments and try to like, it was just my experience. So this is what aggravated me the most. What he ordered aggravated me so bad. Like, the way to come to the table and say, hi, what can I get for you today? Do I need some time to look at the menu? He's like, no, I don't want to get. She said, what you gonna get? He gonna say, I'm gonna have the meatloaf and carrots. That old ass dish. Like, why is you eating? Why are you eating meatloaf and carrots at 6:00 in the afternoon? Like, that's just okay. Whatever. Now I'm ready to go because carrots stink, and it's not even the carrots with no seasoning or nothing. It was some thick sliced carrots, no seasoning, just bland, just steamed. Like they put it in the microwave and bring it out to you. Now he's sitting in my face eating this old ass stank ass meal, and then. This was it for me. When he smiled, I seen that he had teeth. I don't know if he had them in the back, but I see that he had teeth. Like, he was chewing like this the whole time. Check, please. I want to go home. I'm never doing this again. Shout out to the girls who they me and y'all got that bitch. No, thank you.